Going back to the site level, because we did sort of start talking about that. You mentioned a scheme called the Considerate Constructors Scheme. Wonderful name. Could you expand on what you're trying to achieve through the Considerate Constructors Scheme? Because when I talk to people, they always say, well, this is part of our CSR. Am I right?
Yeah, I would say it was a very important part of our CSR agenda, and in particularly around our kind of community engagement agenda. And the CCS scheme was set up, it's a national initiative which was set up by the construction sector to improve the reputation of the construction sector. I think historically the construction sector has been not thought to be employing people who are very considerate. You know, there was a whole sort of issue of wolf whistling and, you know, girly calendars on walls, and, you know, I think a lot of people out there would be surprised to know, well, that just doesn't happen on construction sites anymore. The construction sector has moved a huge way in the last 10 years to actually improve its reputation in the community. And so the CCS scheme is based around sort of 8 core principles around being safe, around environment, about being considerate, respectful, accountable, etc. And it's a registration scheme, so all of our sites which are eligible to sign up to the scheme are signed up, and we have a corporate commitment to corporate target to achieve. It is kind of a rating system.
It's an external rating, isn't it?
It's an externally rated system. So
you put up with inspectors coming onto the site then?
That's right. So typically you would have an inspector come to site twice a year. So the inspector would come on site and they would actually monitor what we're doing in these different categories, and they award a maximum score of 5 points for each of those different areas.
But do you know when they're coming? Do you take down all the girly calendars before they come?
I mean, I think generally you just wouldn't find those kind of things on any of our sites now, and on any of the sites with the other major contractors, I would say as well.
So how do they score you when they're giving the 5 points for these different areas?
Well, I think they have a set of core criteria that they're looking for, and if you're a pretty good site and you're doing sort of all their minimum criteria, then you would get a score of 4. But if you're not doing so well, obviously it would be less. But to achieve that extra half mark or full mark to get to a score of 5 on a particular aspect is actually quite tough now. You know, when you do get a site which is, and we've had a number of sites this year which have scored 39 out of 40, you know, there is a real buzz on those sites. You know, they're very proud of the work that they're doing, that, you know, the people on site are working together very much as a team, and they're very keen and enthusiastic to try and improve. So, if you like, it becomes a competitive issue, you know, competition in between sites at a regional level, at a company-wide level, and there's also national awards every year where different projects get awarded depending on what they've done.
And does it involve everybody on the site? I mean, because as you said earlier, you don't employ a lot of the actual trades. So do you manage to involve the trades as well? Yeah,
because you know, I mean, we may only have a few people on site, but there may be several hundred people working on a construction site on any one stage. So the health and safety and the environmental performance of those contractors is ultimately, you know, that is our responsibility.
And what's the motivation of the subcontractors to do this? Do they share in the glory of 39 out of 40? Or
yeah, I think that to some extent they do. They might not go along to sometimes they might go along to the big awards dinners, but you know, I think it's part of their own CSR. You know, we have requirements of our subcontractors, and you know, ultimately that's a condition of working with us.
Because although some of these things will be compliant, in fact, some of them are over and above compliant. In fact, quite a few of them probably are over. I know you said about newsletters to local people. Nobody tells you you've got to do newsletters to local people. Are these things successful? The things that you put yourself out for a little bit more as well. Sort of. I'm thinking about feedback to BAM and how it works for the company business and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I think to get a score of 4 on the CCS scheme, I mean, there are a lot of standard things that a lot of sites will do But to achieve those extra marks, you do have to be going the extra mile. So, you know, it's about finding new things, new innovations, new ways of working.
And innovation can be scored in the CCS scheme. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, to some extent, yes. Yeah, so they're looking for something a little bit extra now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So something that someone else hasn't done, and so it sounds like a scheme that really does involve the sort of the ground floor of the company and the sort of production phase, as it were. And
yeah. No, very much. Yes.
And are there any other things at site level which you found particularly effective, shall we say, in terms of the CSR sort of agenda?
Yeah, and I think some of the other areas we're looking at is around local employment and local sourcing. Because again, some of this might come down through client requirements, but often some of the solutions are found at the site level. So there may be a requirement to support local employment. So we look at ways, so some of the ways they've been looking at the site level have been to work with the local authority on, for example, Meet the Buyer events. So look at what local companies there are who might be able to provide certain services.